But that brings us to the final. So a bit of a surprising one, some might say, I guess, given the pre-tournament form of teams like the Irish and the French also playing at home, and even some of the early pool stage form of our two combatants. But mate, Joey, I'll get you to have a look, mate. Give us a prediction on who you think will win and why you think they'll win.
Mate, it's okay. So first off, it's the All Blacks for me. That they are definitely on the verge of completing what I believe is their greatest redemption tale. After a disastrous start to the Rugby World Cup in a lot of pundits' eyes, they've won their last 5 games in a row, including a convincing victory in the semi-final over the Argies, over the Los Pumas in the semi. And obviously leading to now where they face the defending champions, the Springboks, who've obviously well-deserving defending champions to make it back to the final of the next World Cup. I think it will be a close match, but the All Blacks have the slight edge just because, they're playing right now with a lot of confidence and they've got the players to match the Springboks all over the park, I believe. And if the All Blacks do win, I think it'll be their greatest World Cup victory for a number of reasons. First, it'll be their first. Well, they'll be the first to reach 4 World Cup titles. Second, I think they would be doing it as slight underdogs at this point, after everyone wrote them off for losing to France in the first round of the first game of the tournament. But more than anything, it would be a victory for resilience and determination. This team's definitely been through a lot the last few years, especially the years under Mr. Ian Foster. But again, they've never given up, and with the chopping and changing of personnel or players, if you like, they've still maintained that All Blacks tradition of keeping the levels great and keeping the standards high. So, this weekend, the All Blacks have a chance to redefine what I believe is the definition of greatness for themselves. And a win in this final would surely be a testament to not only their character, their courage, and their never say die attitude. So, the question begs, can the All Blacks do it? Can they win the 4th World Cup title before South Africa, against South Africa, and cement their legacy as the greatest rugby team of all time? I guess we'll find out this weekend. Nice
thoughts there. I think we might all be on the same page, but Rog, I'll let you go next. Also, give us a prediction around who's going to win and why you think that they'll win.
I think there's sort of 2 sides to my response to this. Is that there's the question: the 2 teams in this final, are they the 2 teams that deserve to be in the final? There's a yes and a no to that, because basically they won when it mattered. They won when it needed to, when it counted, and that's why they deserve to be there on that regard. And they brought the teams to the big dance, and then the bomb squads, so to speak, they added when they needed to be added in. But then no, they don't deserve to be there because either sides, the All Blacks and Springboks, they didn't have a perfect trip through to the final. All right? And but they, going through from their pools, losing to France, losing to Ireland respectively, and then devouring the rest of their competition in their pool, albeit the Boks winning 18-3 to Scotland, smashing Romania, Tonga, but then that loss to Ireland. and the loss to the French for the All Blacks is what makes this interesting in terms of stats. If we go back to 1987, the All Blacks made the final undefeated. The French made that final with 4 wins, 1 draw, and then a loss. And then you've got Australia in 91, undefeated through to that final as well. And then England coming in with a 4 out of 6 because England lost to the All Blacks in pool play.
That's right.
In 95 was the first time that both finalists came in undefeated, and that's the same final that we're having this weekend. Australia in 99, again with France, we're both undefeated as well coming into that final. And then you've got in 2003 was another time. Both teams, England and Australia, coming in undefeated. Sorry, 99, France came in undefeated as well. And then in 2007, South Africa come in undefeated, but not Australia. Or did they? No. South Africa and England in the 2007 final. And it was interesting how England had lost to South Africa in pool play as well. So then they meet up again, and then South Africa do the business against England in that final. And that's when England were looking for the back-to-back. 2011, obviously, after 24 years, the All Blacks finally, again, undefeated coming in. And then the French coming in with only 4 wins, having lost to Tonga and the All Blacks, both in pool play. And yet stumble their way through. Sam Warburton getting red carded in that game against the French as well, for them to be able to continue on to the final. All Blacks in 2015, undefeated, both again with Australia, and then Australia suffering their only loss in that final. 2019, South Africa lost to the All Blacks in pool play, but then they were able to beat England. England had 5 matches they won. 1 game was draw because France and England had their matches cancelled due to the
tsunami or whatever
some weather at the time. And
tornadoes or whatever.
But then we find ourselves here, 2023. Both teams are coming in for the first time. We've got both finalists coming in with a loss each in pool play. And All Blacks against France, South Africa against Ireland. But then this makes 4 finals where finalists came in undefeated. South Africa are the sole team to have won a Rugby World Cup, having suffered a loss during the tournament, and that was the 2019 edition last year, last tournament. And so 3 out of 3 finals for the South Africans, 3 out of 4 finals for the ABs. Like you've mentioned, it's going to be the first time that a team will be crowned for the 4th time ever in Rugby World Cup history. So who will it be? I'm thinking it's got to be the All Blacks. I mean, you've got Andre Pollard, who broke the English hearts and dreams by slotting that 50-metre penalty goal, making the Springbok go through with a couple of minutes left in that semi-final. As remarkable as it was, I just don't see the Springboks being able to replicate that against the All Blacks. I think the All Blacks hopefully will be able to just continue to plug away, be patient, at the same time score early, and then, be able to combat the bomb squad with our own version, with our young props in Tamati Williams and Fletcher Newell, if they are the ones that get signed off for the job.
I don't like that matchup.
But if they're the two, because that's what they've been used, they used that in the quarterfinal, and then they went with that in the semi-final as well. It was just an interesting journey. Like I say, the difference in with the track record leading into the World Cup, with the All Blacks losing to the Irish twice, and then the French also beating the Springboks last November. But just as the French and the Irish beat South Africa and the All Blacks at the beginning of the pool play, of this tournament. I think it's just taken those. Are still there?
Yep.
Yeah. So those results have then been able to tee up what we have now, and it seems like, and then even going up against the likes of the Argentinians and the English in the semi-finals. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the piece, is that they've been able to win when it counted, when it mattered the most, and so now that's why we find ourselves here. And that's basically, despite the track record of the French being touted as the best of the world, Irish getting number one ranking coming into this tournament. Despite all of that, they were unable to do to get the result at the business end, and England couldn't do it last week as well, despite the fact that they had everything riding on that. And I think, as tough as that sounds, it's when it hits the fan, the winner take the spoils here, and that's why hopefully that the French and then the Irish have taken the wrong end of that. So, interesting that some of the English punters are saying, because the South Africans play their rugby in the English competitions or the Northern Hemisphere, that they're considered as Northern Hemisphere. But we've got two Southern powerhouses. Let's not get that wrong. Facing off for this global, facing off for global supremacy and getting the Webb Ellis Trophy. It's going to be, I guess, hopefully, I'm hoping, an exciting match, one for the ages and of epic proportions, as they say. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. Good thoughts here, Roger. I think we're on the same page because I'm also going for the All Blacks. I think they will need to sort of chance their arm a bit and play a bit more rugby and a bit more of an expansive game, as I don't think they can beat the Springboks in a sort of a tight, forward-orientated slugfest. I think that suits the South African style more. So I think that we'll go for it and win it by playing a more attractive style of rugby, which is good for us as All Black fans, but also good for the overall game, which you mentioned, Rog, talking about England and how dour they've been, and sort of just how we want the game to be played. I think that the point that you make earlier, Rog, about how they've had a loss each, it does sort of stick in the craw a little bit for me, because like if the All Blacks win, for instance, if I was a French person, I'm saying, but you didn't beat us, we had your number. So it's sort of a bit of a funny one like that. But I think that World Rugby have at least acknowledged that they've got it wrong, because all the strong sides was on the same side of the draw in the pool, and that was a result of them doing the draw 3 years before the tournament started. So to have New Zealand and France in the same pool, that was second and fourth, and then you had Ireland and South Africa in that same pool, and that's first and third. And then people forget about Scotland, but Scotland were ranked fifth in the world just at the start of that World Cup. And because they were in the same team as the first and first and fourth ranked teams, they just couldn't get out the pool. And, we saw outstanding quarterfinals because all the top teams played each other. And I think that was just foibles of the draw, which will hopefully not happen again, because World Rugby have acknowledged that was an error. So that probably should have been, who knows what would happen. But if that had been the four teams in the semis, it might have been a different story.
But regardless of the draw, it's if whoever you're playing up against, you play up against. And I know Foster got a real bad rap again for another first, losing in pool play at a Rugby World Cup. But, despite that, if the French can get to a World Cup final, losing 2 pool play matches as we witnessed in 2011, and then narrowly winning against a 14-man Welsh team to get to the final, and then losing that final by 1 point. Far out, and we've seen a lot of close encounters this World Cup in the quarters, in the semis. 1-pointers making all the difference, and how closely it could have been a boring English side, albeit boring, but they do what's necessary to win matches with their style of play. It's heavily forward oriented. They're not going to have. They got the Johnny Mays. They've got some flashbacks, but is that where they're geared to? No, we do a lot of cross kicks, but I did see evidently throughout the Rugby World Cup, whether it was a Chile, a Portugal, or an England or Australia, There's a lot of cross kicks. There's a lot of different style of attack now, and the cross kick is massive in it. And Wales was good. Halfpenny, he was good under the high ball. We'll probably never see Halfpenny again, like we've mentioned with some of the other senior players. But it's just, I guess that's the reality. There's no fairy tales in rugby, like Richie Morgan mentioned in the demolition of the Blues in their semi-final at Super Rugby. Whose fairy tales are going to be come the end of this World Cup? Will it be the All Blacks? Are they going to be able to, tilt it for the fourth time, or will it be the Box or the Bomb Squad, Kolisi, some of their guys? Are we going to see the last of Snyman? Quagga Smith, have they got a few more years? They're all around the 30-odd, early 30s. Obviously, Dane Coles. It's he's a very controversial player, old Dane Coles. Fights tooth and nail, but 30. He's in his late 30s. I think they made mention he's the last All Black born before the first World Cup. And will he get a? He's the only one. That's the current player that was born before the inaugural World Cup in '87, and so he's the last of their breed. And now we've got, but you've got a Tokiaho. Who are they going to take as Cody's wingman? Cody Taylor's wingman. So have we seen the last of Dan Coles, or will it be Tokiaho taking it off the bench?
Yeah.
I have a funny suspicion that it's probably they're going to go Dane Coles, just because of what he adds, but that's just But whoever it is, I think it's real tight competition. There's images of Ofa Tungafasi doing his best. Will he get another inclusion? It's really tough. It looks like
carrying the bag.
It looks like we've seen the pattern, I suppose, of Foster and co, that they've elected these two younger guys, in Newell and Tamaiti Williams for the playoffs. So we haven't seen Nepo or Tungafasi in the playoffs. Not that I recall. But,
nice.
Yeah. But then you got Tyrell Lomax, Ethan de Groot. Awesome to see Tyrell Lomax back. So happy for him, but solid as ever.
Nice. Right, yeah, Joy, mate, I'll get you to pick up on that. Just following on from what Roger's been mentioning. So we'll look at some of these selections. So we are doing this podcast before the All Blacks have named their team. But we can see the South African team named. So Faf de Klerk and Andre Pollard both starting. That's the only changes to last week's starting 15. And South Africa, they've reverted back, which Roger mentioned earlier, to that 7-1 split again. So remember the last time the All Blacks played with a 7-1 split, they pummeled us. So if we look at also the All Black side, sort of speculating on the All Blacks team, I suppose the team's pretty settled, which Roger mentioned. But lock has been a bit of a rotating policy in terms of selection. So who do you like as starting there? And also just touching on what Roger mentioned earlier with the hooker. So Taylor's probably a lock. Who do you like on there, that bench spot, seeing you're part of the front row team? And also give us some thoughts around that South African selection if you've got any.
Yeah, look, for me, I think those are two key substitutions or selections for this game in terms of starting team. Pollard, obviously, he's undeniable at the moment. He's time and time again, he's been their trusty boot to get them, from looking like losing to coming in clutch and, winning the game for them on several occasions now. And in big games like the semi-final that we just witnessed over the weekend against England, who showed up but didn't really show up, especially in their second half, right? So England provided the blueprint, which was kick, and smash anything in green, but they didn't do the job in the second half. So, like Roger said earlier, there's guys and there's teams that seemingly deserve to win. But, a team like England, who led for so long in that match and gave up, pretty much let South Africans off the hook in that second half, especially, they have a lot of work to do strategy-wise and get back to the drawing board and bring up a more multifaceted attack for starters, because their attack is atrocious at present. It's like there's no plan. It was all defense and kicking. So the South African team, I think the selections are on point. They're definitely putting their best foot forward in terms of selections. That's 7-1. Obviously, it worked before against the All Blacks. Why wouldn't they do it again?
Yep.
And we've already in this podcast episode touched on the bomb squad and their impact. When they come on, and obviously again, that's going to be a focus of this game when they tactically bring those guys on in the second half. We all know what they're going to try and do, what their intention is. So, obviously, there's over the course of this week, there's been interviews with Dalton Papali, the indomitable Dalton Papali, who talks about easy company, and they're calling their bench unit easy company, and that's they're ready to drop the bomb on the Springboks bomb squad in the Rugby World Cup final. And, it's basically a group of impact players who are renowned for their ability to finish matches in an explosive match-winning fashion. And I believe, just like they do, they're the All Blacks' secret weapon to negate the power and explosiveness of the bomb squad that South Africa have. And I think they're going to play a decisive role in this biggest game of 2023, right? Even biggest game of this World Cup. So, it was inspired, but like Bali said, it was inspired by a TV series, Band of Brothers, which tells the story of a group of American paratroopers during the World War II. And they want to go and finish the job and be in the trenches. That's basically what Bali said. So, the All Blacks, I feel, since that loss to France, I feel like they've been building to this moment in a very, a very intentional and deliberate way. And, I was one of those naysayers before the tournament, even 2 years ago, when Mr. Foster, sorry, Lea Fionga ia whaalongo, Foster. I'm sure he's going to get him a tautaro of whaalongo as well. But I think obviously the All Blacks have never given up, and time and time again they've proven themselves. And I think this group of impact players is no different. The ones who call themselves easy company. I think they're definitely up for the challenge, and I think they're going to identify who's on the South African bench and just really be ready for them and try and negate what they bring to the table. So it's definitely going to be exciting from that point of view as well. That dying stanza in the match, the second half of the game. I think as much as the All Blacks have been through a lot to get to the final, they've been criticised by media, by fans like me. They've never given up, and now they're on the cusp of a next level of greatness. Obviously, we all know them to be a great team and have a great legacy and traditionally one of the greatest teams ever. I just think it will come down to how the bench does. I think it's going to come down to the wire, and I think it's going to come down to who has the greater bench. Well, that's the way I want to see it.
So just on that, talk us through, because the All Blacks team hasn't been named. Talk us through the lock, the three locks. So they've got Retallick, Whitelock, and Barrett. How are you playing that selection out? Just keeping in mind that they've got the bomb squad. So who starts and who's on the bench, and also who have we got backing up Cody Taylor?
Ooh, I like that. So I personally think they're going to start with Barrett and Whitelock. just because Whitelock has the experience and work rate to combat the South Africans' work rate. And then you've got Barrett, who will negate the power of the South Africans. But I think in the second half of the match, where bodies are tired and fatigued, and the the leftover All Blacks, if you like, that are on the field will need that G up from fresh legs. I think that's where Retallick will really come into his own, and depending on when Foster brings him on, he will have a key part in the attack side of the All Blacks in that second half. I think in terms of a backup for Cody Taylor, like Rog said before, or I think it was you, Stacey, a lot of faith will be put into Dane Coles, the wily Dane Coles. I think he has the experience. He's a big game player, and he knows how to score tries. So I don't think they lose anything by starting either one of those two. But I think if there was going to be a backup player, Samsoni, you've got to get him on as soon as possible. I think Samsoni, he's one guy who I really want to see start this match. I'm not sure if he will, and I'm not sure if he'll even be on the bench, but I think he needs to play a part in this match, because Samsoni will find a way to, like Martilia did last week, to be slippery in and amongst the forwards. Samsoni, you can tell in every time he's put on that black jersey and got on the field, he's always trying to beat that first man. Whether it be bumping him off, whether it be just out-muscling him, or whether it just be wiggling his way through somehow, or even a spin. I think Samsoni definitely tries, like Adi tries, to beat the first man. So he's exciting to me in that respect. But then you have, the tried and true experience of Taylor and of Coles. Obviously, it's Coles' last match. I'm not sure if it's Taylor's last match, but it's definitely Coles' last match. So it'll be nice to see all those old heads, get this W. Especially Sam Whitelock. I think he's well deserving of a W, a fairy tale ending. But as you both know, rugby isn't about fairy tale endings. It's about, and I agree with Jerry Collins on this. Jerry Collins, once upon a time, he owned on Facebook. There was a forum. I think it was a New Zealand Herald article that was shared on Facebook, and there was a whole lot of people giving their opinions. And Jerry came on there with one of his comments, and his comment was, because I think he was arguing against people who were saying, oh, they didn't deserve to win, or so such and such deserved to win. Jerry came on there and gave a great perspective, I thought. It was, it doesn't come down to who deserves to win. It comes down to who takes their chances the best. And I truly believe that. I absolutely believe that. There are teams who we say as fans deserve to win because of the hard work they put in and all the great things they've done beforehand. But like Jerry says, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in that respect. It's not who deserves to win. It's who takes their chances the best in that moment. So I'm going to stick to that one for this game. Whoever takes their chances the best will come out on top. And unfortunately, there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. And the fairy tale will end for both teams, and depending on which team comes out triumphant, one team will be crying and the other will be celebrating.
Yeah, good thoughts there. And especially that part about taking your opportunities, because I remember we spoke last week and we reviewed the quarterfinals. All four of those teams that lost, because they were all close, they all had opportunities to win those games. Just didn't take those opportunities, and then they ended up all going home. So, all four of those quarterfinals could have turned out completely different if they'd taken those opportunities, because they were all down to the wire. I think you had a stat last week, Joey, where I think the average points was only 6 points in those quarters. And that's close enough that if you take one or more two opportunities, you could be in those semis. So, yeah, good points there.